Excellent job on your quiz. I'm going to review the answers to all of the questions. First thing, if you're looking back at your own quiz, your questions might be in a different order. Also, your multiple choice answers might be in a different order. However, this is all the questions and all the correct answers. For this first problem, it says, what is the vertex of a parabola with directrix at 2 and focus at -4, -3? When you first did your problem, did you draw a picture? If you draw a picture, your goal is to find your vertex. Knowing where your focus is and your directrix is, your vertex is halfway in between them. That would give us an ordered pair of -1, -3. So for this one, draw a picture. Halfway between the focus and the directrix is your vertex. For the next one, it's asking what the distance is. The p-value is the distance from the vertex to the directrix or the vertex to the focus. If you draw a picture plotting your vertex and then draw a picture of your directrix, count up those spaces, and that is a length of 4. Your p-value is 4. In the next one, they want us to take the center, which they already started for us with the equation, and they want us to replace the x with our 9, and they want us to replace the y with the -3. And after you're done solving, you end up with your r squared. They wanted us to complete the equation. The formula says equals r squared. So our completing the equation, the answer is 25. If they asked for the radius would be just 5. For our next one, we have a plot of land that is bounded by a river. If we have 320 feet of fence going around all 3 sides, we want to take the 2 sides that are the same and subtract that off what we have, which is 320. So 320 minus 2x. Area of a rectangle is base times height. And if we multiply our base times height and reorganize it, we get our equation. If we want to maximize this equation, we are going to think vertex for the idea of max. And to find your vertex, it's opposite of b over 2a. And when you simplify that, you get 80. Coming back to our picture, we know our x is 80, and then plugging in here, we get 160. You have to be careful of what the directions are asking. If they're asking for the dimensions, it would be 80 by 160. If they're asking for the actual area, we are going to multiply 80 times 160 to get 12,800. For this next one, they want to know what's going in the blank. What goes in the blank is our 4p. Well, what is p? P is the distance from our focus to our directrix. Our focus to our vertex. If our p-value is 2, plugging in, we just do 4 times 2, which is 8. But did you catch that it was opening to the left? And when it opens to the left, we need to put in the negative sign. So -8. This next one says, what are the coordinates of the focus? I always draw a picture. First off, we want to find our vertex. For the vertex, you want to take the opposite of both. So we have a -1 and a +4 and plot that point for your vertex. And then if we look, we see that it has a negative sign and our y is being squared. When y is squared and it's negative, it opens to the left. So I started a sketch of going to the left. Our p-value, to find that, we take this number, and I don't worry about the negative. I let the negative decide the direction. So I just take the 8 and I set it equal to 4p, so my p-value is 2. And if I plot 2, a length of 2 or distance of 2 from my vertex, I end up where my focus is, and then that ordered pair is -3, 4. For the next one, most people did really well with this, but they flip-flopped what was the x value and what is the y value. I did go back and give half points for students who had the correct numbers but had them flip-flopped. We are just finding the maximum, so opposite of b over 2a. But then they tell us, question 1 says, what will the price be? Price represents p, and p is where your x's would be. and that would be the 30. When you plug in, you get your Y value, and it says the drills, the D is our Y value. So when you plug in, you get the Y. Like I said, most people did well. They just had them flip-flopped. Read closely in the directions for what the letters represent. For this next one, first thing you want to look at is which direction is it going to open. It's always going to open in kind of like the opposite direction of that directrix. And so we know it's going to open to the right, meaning it's a y squared. So you can see I crossed off anything that had an x squared. It tells us that it is positive because it's going to the right. And then I found my p value. P is the distance from the vertex to your directrix, which is a length of 3. But then our formula says 4 times P, so 4 times 3 is 12. Be careful on what form you are in when you find the vertex. This is transformation form. Transformation form, you want to think of going to the right 3 and up 4, and that would put you at 3, 4. When they are on opposite sides, that's when you take the opposite of both. The next one says, what is the radius of the circle? And we want it tangent to the y-axis. I find it much easier to actually draw a picture. And if we want it to be tangent, that means it's only going to touch our y-axis. And we want to find that length or that distance from the center to our y-axis, which is 3. Practicing completing the square. When you complete the square, you can look at my work. What you do to one side, you got to make sure you also do to the other. Your center is at -4, 3, but be very careful. They don't want the r squared. They want just the radius, and our radius is 3. This one is false because our formula says r squared, and our r is 5, so this really should have been 25. What is the coordinate of the vertex of the parabola? This is when you take the opposite of both because they're on different sides. Make sure the x goes in with the x, so take the opposite, and then the y with the y. Opposite would be -1, 4. It says, what is the equation of the directrix? Well, first we want to find where our vertex is. Take the opposite of both. So our vertex is -3, -5. And I'm going to plot that point. It tells us that our x is squared. And it's positive, so we are going to be opening up. Our p value, you take the 4, and that's our 4p. Set it equal to 4p and solve. P is 1. If it's opening up, we want a distance right in here. Our p equals 1, and that would make it a horizontal line at y equals -6. The next one, just make sure you organize your letters correctly. I have the y squared plus 6y, but I'm moving the x and the 29 to the other side using opposite signs. When you complete the square, make sure what you do to one side you do to the other. After you simplify, factor out your GCF. And then from there, we're going to take the opposite of both for our x and y, so we are at 5, -3. For this one, we have a y squared. It's negative, meaning it is going to open to the left. I hope this helped. Remember, as you review your own quiz to see what you got right or wrong, your answers are going to be in a different order, and your questions are going to be in a different order because it's randomized. But hopefully you can locate in the video the ones that you had wrong, or at least watch the video and later go back and see which problems you had wrong and if you're able to correct them. On Thursday, we're going to end Unit 9, and so we will have another assessment for all of our conic sections, our circles and parabolas, which are in this quiz, but then also we will review and have on the assessment our ellipses and hyperbolas. I hope you have a